name is Gordon Snyder. I'm the director of the National Center for Information and Communications Technologies. We're in Springfield, Massachusetts. We're an NSF Center of Excellence, just like the MPIC Center here in San Francisco. I just want to do a quick history of our center. We're in Springfield, Massachusetts. I'll show you a map of Massachusetts in a few minutes, where we're located. We started in 1997. We were the Northeast Center for Telecommunications Technologies at the time. And we were the old NYNEX footprint. NYNEX became Bell Atlantic, which then became Verizon. So it's New England, New York State, minus the state of Connecticut, which was always AT&T country or Southern New England Telephone. Our area at the time, the internet infrastructure was being built out, and our coverage was very physical layer focused. The background and experience of the original PIs on the proposal, we all had electrical engineering background, academic backgrounds, and we were very physical layer focused. It was sort of like the information superhighway, I guess, was being built out, and that was a pretty exciting time, if you all remember that. A little more history. In 2002, we changed our name from the Northeast Center to the National Center. I was not the original executive director. Jim Massey was. Jim retired in 2001. After Jim retired, we changed the name of our center to the National Center, and we started to reach out across the country. We also started our expansion into the above the physical layer content. We really, I think, cover all 7 layers of the OSI model, I think, now really well. All the communications pieces, along with the end devices, end device operating systems, and end device applications. So we're very focused on technician education and really emerging technologies, I think, in this area. If you look at, here's a picture of the state of Massachusetts. We're the bigger star, that's where Springfield is. And I got these 3 other stars there. There's community colleges, there's 4 community colleges in the western part of the state. Where you see that upper star, actually, that border that divides Worcester County and Franklin County, that's the Connecticut River, which separates Vermont and New Hampshire. So if you think about a map of New England, you think of the separation of Vermont and New Hampshire, you just keep going south, you hit Springfield, right before the Connecticut border. So that's where we're located, and I'm going to refer back to this in a few minutes. Our primary goal is to create a comprehensive, sustainable national education system for the ICT industries. We started using the ICT term a few years ago, and changed our name from Telecommunications Center to the ITC Center about 1.5 years, almost 2 years ago, I think now. We focus a lot on pedagogy, the content, the means of delivery, how to keep that stuff current. And we have a lot of subject matter experts. You're seeing people that, we've been fortunate enough to connect with from around the country here today, here the past couple days presenting. So at one time when the center first started, we had 3 subject matter experts. So you would come to one of our conferences and you would see three people present, that's it. Now this conference, I think, what do we have, about 60 presentations, 60 presenters. So there's a lot of really good expertise all around the country, and we're trying to find those people and get them to help us out and work with us. We also focus on a lot of the Web 2.0 technologies and how to disseminate and how to share information in some new and different ways. And we want to connect with you and your college. If you're interested in partnering with us, you can contact us. If you want to join us, we have another conference running in the summer. I'll mention that in a minute. But what I really wanted to talk about today, I wanted to talk about technology, and I wanted to talk a little bit about something that I'm very concerned with, and I've actually written quite a bit about in my blog, and this broadband divide in the United States, and sort of the broadband haves and the broadband have-nots. We had a really low bandwidth definition of what broadband is. Back early spring 2008, the FCC actually bumped the broadband definition up to 768 kilobits per second in one direction. It had previously been 200. They're still calling something with 200 or more, between 200 and 768 first generation data. That's pretty low bandwidth, isn't it? It's embarrassing. They've also got these other categories, 1.5 to 3, 3 meg to 6 meg, 6 meg and above. It's still, I think, a sort of a definition that's lacking in the United States. It's a serious problem in this country. I don't think it's going to get any better for a while, unless things change. About a year ago, President Obama signed in the Recovery Act. The FCC is involved with the National Telecommunications and Information Administration to perform the FCC's role. They've contracted under the Recovery Act. There's this thing called BTOP. Has anybody heard of BTOP? Broadband Technology Opportunities Program. It's a solicitation. So they've been tasked, basically, a year ago. This group FCC was tasked to create a national broadband plan by, well, a little more than a month from now. Yesterday, the FCC chair, actually, Julius Genachowski, wrote a letter to the, saying it's probably not going to happen. They're asking for a 1-month extension. They want to extend it out to March now. And the whole idea of this broadband plan is to ensure all people in the U.S. have access to broadband capability and will establish benchmarks for meeting that goal. How many of you, anybody here live in an area where there's not broadband access? Or maybe you have students in your classes that live in communities that only have dial-up access? It's all over the place. It's embarrassing. But to give you an idea of what's going on with this plan, the broadband plan right now is still due February 17th. I'm sure they'll get at least a 1-month extension on this. These 706 reports are required as part of the Telecom Act of 1996. The FCC is required to create these reports. There's been a response to the General Accounting Office. That's another requirement. There'll be a consumer survey that has not been done yet. That'll be part of the plan. So this plan is supposed to be coming in next month, and part of that plan will be a consumer survey, and there's also a mapping project, a plan to map broadband access in the United States. And the results of that plan, the mapping itself is due in about a year. So again, that's fast-tracked. I don't think that's going to happen in a year. Now, the focus, if you look at, if you read the stuff, it's focused on DSL, which is provided by the telephone companies, cable modem, cable companies, fiber, wireless, satellite, and there's some interesting broadband over power line, or BPL, trials going on in the United States right now. You can actually transmit it at fairly high bandwidths over existing power lines. Now, as far as policy goes, I don't like to talk about politics, but I get upset about this. I get very upset when there's a student in my class. I got 2 students sitting in my class. One student lives in a town that has broadband access. The person next to them lives in a town that doesn't have broadband access. It's difficult, I think, for them to get their homework done. A lot of the stuff we're going to talk about, I'm going to talk about in a little bit, really requires broadband to do it. So what's happened? You know, in Japan, you can get 1 gigabit per second for $51 a month. I live in South Hadley, Massachusetts. I can get around 5 megabits per second for right about that price. I think I pay $49.99 or something like that. Lawrence Lessig, he claims our nosedive is because of the changes in government policy. In the early 90s, you had lots of different ISP options, if you remember. You know, whether it be narrowband, and narrowband at the time, that's what we referred to as, you know, it's dial-up access. So you had all kinds of dial-up providers, along with broadband ISPs. You used to go into the Verizon central offices, and there would be cages and racks of DSL providers. They're all gone now. You go into these COs now, and all these cages are empty. There's no competition anymore, or very little competition. You got the cable companies competing with the telephone companies. You don't have broadband providers, competing broadband providers anymore like you did 10 years ago. And again, you just can't do the stuff that we want to do with our students, and our students need to know how to do, and they have to do over a dial-up modem connection. Again, back to BTOP. I reviewed proposals for BTOP. That was quite an experience. If you've ever reviewed NSF proposals, I thought BTOP was much more, much more tedious, and NSF stuff is tough. But this whole Broadband Technology Opportunities Program, it's a $2 billion program. Again, it's part of the stimulus piece. There were 2,200 applications that came in for the August 2009 round, and those are the ones I reviewed. I reviewed a set of proposals from that round. The first rounds were announced December 17th. Vice President Biden made the announcement, $182.7 million BTOP awards, matched by $46 million in private capital. And I'll give you an idea. There's middle mile awards. This is to build out and improve connections to communities lacking sufficient broadband access. So this is basically getting a connection out into a community. And then that last mile, these last mile awards are actually connections that actually hook up to people's homes. Then there's a public computing category. Things like libraries, community colleges are listed, other private venues or public venues, and sustainable adoption, where the broadband is promoted with population groups where the technology has traditionally been underutilized. So Massachusetts, our governor's categorized, and I think you'll see similar. The reason I have this is you'll see similar categorizations in every state in the country. It kind of chopped the state up into pieces. There's Western Massachusetts, where I'm from. There's Cape Cod, and then there's sort of the middle, Boston. And if you look at back to that map, the four most western counties, we still have 60 communities that do not have broadband access or have very limited access. So we have lots and lots of people out there who are still struggling with dial-up modems. The first round went actually to the libraries in Boston. The first round of BTOP funding. Western Massachusetts or Cape Cod were not funded in the first round. We'll probably get in Western Massachusetts, the governor allocated a couple years ago $25 million to string some fiber up the highway, sort of that middle mile piece. That highway that parallels the Connecticut River called Route 91. We'll get about $5 million probably out of this BTOP thing, and it's not going to even put a dent in this stuff. So it's just not going to happen the way it's set up right now in our state, and I think you'll have similar situations. I was talking to Bill in northern Nevada. He's got similar problems with his students in these rural areas. So it's a little frustrating. It's going to cost a lot of money, and we just don't have the money. I don't know what's going to happen.